Beginnings are always tough. However, when it comes to open data ecosystem in Serbia development, this can vary. What were the obstacles, setbacks, but also achievements and milestones in structuring strategic plan and the importance of the community? That all will be presented by Ivana Cerovic from UNDP Serbia. Please welcome her. Just a second, the presentation will start. Okay, it starts.
Buddy, actually my name is Sanja Nasevski and I have to excuse my colleague Irena. That's not a problem. She couldn't make it today, but I hope that I will be a good substitute for her. So, as you have seen from the title of the session today, we are going to talking about open data in Serbia and what are the milestones and achievements until this very moment, and where do we see ourselves in the next couple of years, so let's say in the near future. First I'm going to walk you through Open Data Initiative in Serbia. So what are the achievements, milestones, where do we stand, how do we compare to our peers and countries in the region, and of course how do we compare to those who we look up to, France, UK, other countries who are really good at this. After that, and yes, I'm not going to tell only about the great stuff, of course. They will be talking about some problems, some obstacles that we are facing and that we have to work through in the next period. After that, I'm going to use some 10 minutes to talk about best case scenario in the next couple of years. So what are our expectations in the future and where do we see ourselves? And of course, it's very important for you to know that there will be some opportunity for you to engage and to actually become part of this initiative because we have one very designed process which is open and running, and you will hear more about that. And of course there will be some time for questions and answers, 10 to 15 minutes. So I created this timeline. Of course, not every step of our way is on this timeline, but we can say that the most important thing started in 2015 when, together with World Bank and Office for IT and E-Government in Serbia, which is the main body mandated for e-government and open data policy in Serbia, we have implemented Open Data Readiness Assessment. And according to that assessment, we were ready to start speed ahead. So we have started, and you know that usually you have to prepare your ground, you have to do some really important steps, include every stakeholder if you want to do something really good. So if I would say that before 2015 nothing was happening related to open data in Serbia, that would be a lie, because in 2013 Serbia has joined Open Government Partnership, for example, and that's around really important step. So for those of you who don't know what the Open Government Partnership is, it's actually an international platform which gathers governments and civil society leaders across the world, and they are tasked to create a 2-year cycle action plan with commitments and measures related to transparency, participation, open data. So we actually, by this date, had first action plan with several commitments related to open data. But nothing was really happening on a large scale. So this Open Data Readiness Assessment kind of put things, you know, into the start, into the zero, and then we started full ahead. So it took us a year and a half to prepare the ground, to include each stakeholder into this process. And then in 2017, we launched Project Open Data, Open Opportunities. So UNDP together with Office for IT and E-Government. And in October 2017, we have launched National Open Data Portal. You can access it via website www.data.gov.rs. And currently that website has 28 organizations, out of which 26 are state bodies who release open data. There are 107 data sets and 362 data resources. So it's still very young. It needs to be upgraded, developed, and of course we plan to do that through the process of engagement of the community, of the users who are mostly there and downloading data. Until April 2018, we have already managed to establish individual relationships with those institutions who want to champion this initiative, who were those to sign up first, who recognized the benefits of open data and wanted to engage in this process. And of course, if you want to create a good plan for each institution, then you have to have like a tailor-made approach. You cannot just, gather them in one place and just, have the same method for everybody, because each institution has different needs and, of course, different possibilities. And when it comes to infrastructure and possibilities to actually engage in this process on different levels. So we had, a round of meetings going over there, just like we were selling open data to them. Just, yes, release open data, that's good, it has benefits. But usually we would get that question, why do I need to do this? Is it written somewhere? Can I do this? Like, it was a serious question. Am I allowed to release my data in open data format? And we were like, yeah, okay, good question. Then again, where it says that you are not allowed. So you're allowed. But luckily, in April 2018, the law on e-government was passed, and several chapters of articles of this law regulate open data, national open data portal, data reuse, so some very important things if you're talking about open data initiative in Serbia. And that was a new setting for us. And apart from the support from the Prime Minister's office, which was really strong because digitalization is one of the very important things in the agenda, now we had a law framework. And starting from that moment, the things got a little bit easier. So now you can, say it's in the law. Yeah, it's in that chapter because, when you're talking to institutions, sometimes it's just the law that makes sense to them. I mean, not always, but for some, it does. And a month later, in March 2018, we organized first Open Data Week in Serbia with 11 events with the support from Startit. And there were 360 people. It was really good, great to see all those people engaged in this process in one place and to get to discuss what are the new happenings and what are we going to do later on. So, you always have that small group of like 50 or 100 people who are just engaged all the time. But even before the project officially started, we created something called Open Data Working Group. So, through this group, we actually wanted to gather all those who are part of the initiative. So multi-stakeholder platform, not just state bodies, but also civil society, IT community, academia, other stakeholders who are really important when it comes to open data. So it's not enough only to have state institutions because that's how they stay in their box and they don't know what are the actual needs of the society and of the users. So this working group serves like some kind of a channel in order to mainstream everything what's happening, to provide guidance and support for the institutions, and to actually enable exchange of experience. Because some institutions can just, take the good practices from the others and not make same mistakes, losing some precious time in this process. And this Open Data Working Group is now coordinated by the Office for IT. It has 53 members. Out of those, more than 30 are state bodies. It's actually, I can call it a group of enthusiasts. So all of those who are in this group are very dedicated to the process, and they are more than willing to, some of them already open data, some of them are in the process, and some are then in the process of preparation. So like everybody are in some stage and following the same process with, of course, individual communication all the time in the UADP and Office for IT and e-government. In this working group, of course, we have those institutions which are big data publishers who are really pushing things forward. I will just name a few. Statistical Office of Serbia, Public Health Institute, Ministry of Justice, Serbian Geodata Authority. So those institutions are like, they're super devoted, and when you have somebody, to just push things forward, then other institutions just look up to that process. Because if you approach them, then you say, okay, we already have like statistics office, and they're like, oh yeah, if they're over there, I want to be part of that society. Or, somebody would say, how come I'm not in that group? I mean, we're the leaders, we have so much data, we want to be open. Yeah, come on, join the club, it's open. But at the beginning of my talk, I said that I'm not only going to be sweet about this story, and I'm going to talk about problems, obstacles, so what are we facing. I mean, you're probably pretty much aware about what can be obstacle in this process, as you might follow this process in other countries. It's all the same, So when it comes to problems in our country, usually institutions don't have enough resources. So when it comes to technical knowledge or human resources, it's a problem if they have to dedicate some serious time into this process. Of course, if they don't have budgeted funds, which they usually don't have, then if we are talking about more than just marginal costs for at least open data, then they cannot engage in any serious process. Also, sometimes it happens that we find the closed doors. Usually when we talk about some traditionally closed sectors, like finance, for example, then it goes a little bit slower. Budget, that's a sensitive data. But yeah, this actually confirms Open Budget Survey 2017, so we didn't score, really good, and actually this can be approved by only releasing, few Excel tables. So it can, be a little effort, but a lot of benefits. Sometimes it happens that institutions don't understand the benefits of open data, so they ask, okay, can you tell us what is going to be immediate benefit? Like, are we going to see increase of GDP? And we're like, okay, but before you want to measure the impact, you have to do it, right? You cannot measure impact before that. I mean, you can, but then again, you will just do this and nothing tangible would come out from that process. And then again, institutions are usually focused on their everyday business, so open data is usually not on their top priority list. And then if it comes to the agenda, sometimes we get questions like, okay, yeah, we are ready, full speed ahead, we will do this alone. We don't need NGO. Community, now why? That's not how it goes. I mean, you can, but after that you will just be disappointed because nobody will use your data. And you will be like, okay, why am I even bothering? No, 0 downloads. And yeah, that's why, because you didn't consult the community, you didn't ask them. And if they do realize why it's actually important to engage people, then, we're like, okay, now initiative from you, we expect something, give us a plan, nothing. So, I mean, yeah, something else just comes to the shadow, something more important, something from the government. So yeah, open data, back again to the end of the list. So, I mean, it doesn't go always like that with each institution, but you get the picture. I mean, those things happen from time to time, and it just, puts you backwards for a few steps. But it's not all that black. So we do still have some use cases, which we cherish and we show them everywhere, like, okay, look guys, somebody actually used something. Traffic accidents in Belgrade, put it on map. I'm sorry I didn't provide, good enough photo. It wasn't available, so, but the point is, you can see that traffic accidents, I'll put it on map, and which are the spots where traffic accidents are usually happening. Mediately database, it's a database of medicines, so you can see the substance of each medicine and, for example, categorization of disease, other health-related data, which is useful not only for the patients or for the people, but for the doctors, for example. And together with the city of Belgrade, we have managed to put data related to public transportation, so bus stations, routes, in general transit feed specification format, which is a standard format for public transportation data. On Google Maps and Move It app. So it's still not available, but soon it will be. So Belgrade will join those numbers of other cities which already have put their data in Google Map. And if you're coming to a foreign city, then it's very useful to know where the bus goes. When it comes to the future, I mean, it's really hard to make any predictions, and we can only talk about next maybe 5 years. But if we do some strategic thinking and get into this process very seriously, then we can talk about more than just 5 years. But first we have to talk about sustainability. So when this project ends, which will be the next year, who will gonna push things forward? Who is going to do it? I mean, having just the Office for IT pushing it, that's not going to be enough. We will need more than those 53 members of the Open Data Working Group. So new institutions will have to come in and join and create some serious plans with activities, with monitoring, with indicators in order to follow whether we succeeded or not. Community. We're only talking about data supply, but what happens with demand? We have to have strong and articulated demand. So, I mean, of course, it does happen in an individual relationship. So somebody knows somebody, and then he tells, oh, it would be great if the statistics office would release that data. But then again, if it's not part of some articulated process, it's hard to know actually what is going to be used most and what will create the best value. So community of users is really important, and it has to be developed. Of course, it does require some, capacity building skills. We have media, civil society, they're good, but for some of them it's still a problem because they don't have a special IT sector, like guys who really know how to do it. They would know what to do with data, but they don't know how to do it. So of course, this community building does require some other, capacity building activities or something similar in order to be developed. Money. Yes, I mean, it's important because everywhere in the world, open data sounds promising. So if the supply continues to grow and data-driven solutions are developed, maps, apps, etc., so we expect this in some point of time, of course, not immediately. Related to sustainability, we're talking about strategic approach. So we really have to, think things twice. So because open data is here to stay. So if we're just going to do things, until this project ends and not continue doing anything after that, then, as the time comes, nobody will even know what happened in this project and data will be old and that's it. So we need concrete action plans with activities, monitoring, evaluation tools, and we need to know what we're going to do and where do we want to be, because that's what we will measure. I mentioned reuse cases. We need those. Everybody always asks, yeah, show me a reuse case. Show me something good. Can I, use it? Yeah. But in order to assure reuse cases, we need good quality data. Because if you don't have quality data, then, it won't be used. I mean, we do hear all the time, that database is not 100% correct. Don't tell anybody. I mean, guys, everybody know that. We don't expect to have perfect data sets or 100% accurate data. But if you put it out there, somebody will take it, make corrections, and give it back. So you will actually have better data set than you had before you, kept it in your box. And of course, we need to talk about some standards immediately, at the very beginning. But then again, don't get too bothered over that because you're never going to release any data. So to finish in a kind of positive matter, I said that I will, invite you to somehow contribute to this initiative and be a part of it. So what we have going on right now, we have 12 more days, actually 11 more days left to apply for a public call. which is open until 30 September for civil society organizations, civil society-owned media, and higher education institutions owned by the state. So, but only those registered in Serbia, of course. And the overall fund is $83,500, and the single award goes up to $20,000. So, I mean, it's enough money for something you want to do, you know what to do it. So you just write the project proposal, nothing, the procedure is really simple, and you apply by 30 September. I put the web link where you can find more information about this initiative, and it's important for you to know that we have 3 lots. So first is for open data reuse, the second is for promotion, so some kind of events, datathons, hackathons, similar. And the third one is for the capacity building. So if you do recognize some target group and you have some knowledge to transfer, yeah, that would be great. And the second thing is still in the process of development. Those are data innovation challenges. Maybe some of you are familiar with this concept. So institution comes up with some kind of problem, or they want to see some analysis, data put to the map, visualization, whatever, and they offer the data sets. And they come up with some wide definition of solution. So nothing too, you know, specific, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to just provide your idea. It will be like, okay, here's this, what you asked. But it will be wide definition, and anybody who is interested will be able to apply. So this will not be limited only for the civil society, media, and higher education institutions, but we're also talking about SMEs, individuals even, so it will be a really open call. I said it's in the process of preparation, so right now we have 3 ideas in the loop. First is related to health data. The second is related to local self-government statistics data, so level of unemployment, development, and similar indicators. And the third one is related to electromagnetic radiation level. So you will get more information in the near future. We currently have some more institutions which are in the process of negotiation, so we might still get another challenge, and we hope to announce this challenge in the next 2 or 3 weeks, let's say. So follow our activities, and of course here's my contact info if you want to just reach out directly and ask anything about what you heard today. And now we have like 10 more minutes to talk about this a little bit more. If you have some questions, want to contribute to this story, please feel free.
Okay, thank you. So do we have questions?
Hi, my name is Peđa Topić from Confluence Property Management. Do you see any roles, and if so, which, for private companies in this process?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question, actually, because private companies weren't so included from the very beginning. The project was from the start focused on the institutions, so to make some like ground basis with them, and to actually have some data sets before you approach to any private institutions, private companies, and talk with them about what would be a benefit for them. Do they see themselves in this process? How do they see themselves? So we do intend to engage them, and these last 2 public calls which I talked about are actually the start of that like say engagement element of the project. So we'll still have some time in order to discuss that, but maybe we should have done that earlier, because I mean I'm not sure that companies are even aware of how far we've reached and what can they do in that process. I mean, they, probably know it, but, we didn't have any cooperation in that sense.
Okay, thank you. Somebody else? Just a second. The volunteers will come. Here.
My name is Miloš Jovanović. I was thinking about, is there a space, or did you try in any way to make public those politically sensitive data, like some Secret Service files from previous times or things like that that are highly controversial in this society and with all of its political and historical controversies.
Okay, of course, those data which is, by the law secret cannot be published, yes. But when we started, our thinking was, okay, let's first involve those who are willing to join voluntarily. And then, we were going selling the story, and of course, like I said, some institutions which hold that like sensitive data, they were not the ones who were firstly, willing to join. For example, we had the Ministry of Interior. They did join. They provided those data sets about the accidents. But then again, some other ministries, usually known to be closed, they're still not part of this Open Data Working Group. And since the project is really limited when it comes to the time frame and to the results which we want to deliver, then it's not possible to just, be so persuasive and go to those institutions who are, not willing to be part of that. I mean, we still have 1 year, so maybe, after some time we will reach out somehow and use. I mean, we always try to just, do things on a voluntary basis, and if we have, then, we can always say this is on the top agenda, this is, Prime Minister put this in her expose, but then again, if somebody doesn't want to release, you cannot make it.
And what about data about things that are mostly agenda of NGOs, like labor law violations and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, depending on of which NGO we're talking about, yes. I mean, usually there was, even in the open government partnership process, the data about budget was like the most demanded. So it was a big pressure to release national budget in open data format. And luckily, I think in this action plan, it will actually become one measure. So we will have national budget in open data format. But when it comes to other things, I mean, we, in this process of the project proposals public call, we hope to receive some projects which will actually, have some advocacy component. Because on the other hand, if we come and say civil society wants this and this data, I mean, it's not authentic because civil society has to do it. So we actually expect from them, maybe, if reuse is one lot, but you have the others, and we expect to receive some projects which will be partly advocacy focused. So civil society organizations are really encouraged to work directly with the institution, even though the institution cannot be a beneficiary of the call when it comes to funds, but
Do they use any of your platforms for that?
In this Open Data Working Group, we have several civil society organizations, and of course it's open for new members. And those, we can say that they have like direct approach to the institutions who are also members of the Open Data Working Group. And that can be one really useful channel, to advocate for the data you need. I mean, we would like to hear that and to see that.
Somebody else? Sir.
This is not question, it is more like some kind of remark. If you can pass it to guys who work on e-government, please don't store passwords as plain text in databases.
Okay, we have also representatives of the Office for IT present here, so yeah.
I've just a question. Is it compulsory in Serbia to deliver the data as open, or there is no national law about that?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Is there a national law
National law,
about open data?
There is a law on e-government. It's adopted in 2018. but there are just several articles which regulate. So it's on e-government, and then open data is part of the several articles. So machine readable format is defined, national open data portal, data reuse, but then again it stayed a little bit limited in some aspects. So there are still some open questions to discuss, but we hope that we will maybe not in the course of this project, but in the near future, just make some amendments which will, make things even clearer for when it comes to open data. Yeah.
Somebody else? Okay, if we don't have any questions, I would like to ask you to give one big applause for this presentation.